Well, there we go then. I've got my review, so I'm just going to read that now. That was fun. I have to say that when I started playing Tomb Raider, I wasn't sure if I'd like it, as I knew the formula had changed significantly from the games I remember from my childhood. I became further concerned when I started the game and came to the realisation that this might be an open world game. The game certainly displays quite a few of the tropes of an open world game early on, but this didn't turn out to be the case, as the story remains very set and linear throughout, with a total gameplay of 10 to 20 hours for a standard playthrough, whereas a fully open world game would likely be more like 100 hours plus. In terms of story, I feel the mysterious island on which a mad cult is based trope was fleshed out rather well throughout the game, with an engaging story with enough elements to keep the player interested throughout. This was unfortunately peppered quite heavily with contrivances and plot conveniences that really took me out of the experience. A good example of this is how Lara is never actually with someone. There is always some contrivance that means she has to go out on her own. This started off by being believable, but as the game went on and her companions had more and more opportunities to go with her, it just seemed more and more odd. This is one of many examples, but this is just the one that immediately came to mind. For a game released in 2013, I really just have to say the game's really pretty. It doesn't just stand up to today's standards 5 years on, but it still looks really great, and looks better than some modern games. With this in mind, I did think it was disappointing that the environments in the game were so unvaried, sticking with only the island jungle motif throughout. I understand the need for continuity and theme, but I feel the game could have done with some more varied biomes to make the most of the pretty graphics, and I feel this may have been a missed opportunity. In terms of gameplay, I have to say overall I'm impressed. The game kept a fast pace, although admittedly only over less than 20 hours, but the game keeps the peril believable and interesting throughout. Limiting Lara to only 4 guns I feel was a good decision overall and kept things from getting too complicated, although as a fan of the old games I feel giving her 2 pistols rather than 1 would have been a nice nod. I know that did kind of happen right at the end, but it was literally for seconds. The skill point system seemed more suited to a longer game, but worked out well enough, and the ratio of cinematics to actual gameplay felt natural and worked well for what is essentially an on-rails story game with a linear nature to the mission. I feel maybe a little bit more exploration could have been encouraged, and maybe just a little padding, capitalising on the open world elements of the game might have not only made for a slightly extended experience, but also a more rounded one. The game wasn't perfect by any means. As much as it feels like the developers were going for realism, I felt myself taken out a little every time something just magically appeared in Lara's hands, or parts of her clipped through terrain. The characters were also very two-dimensional and weren't really developed outside the story being told, and were little more than empty shell cliches with the responses to your actions that could be easily guessed with no prior knowledge of the game or the characters. The only character I felt any emotion for was Whitman, the sleazeball presenter, only in it for himself, not realising the danger he's in. He was a very easy character to hate, and even though he in himself is a cliche, I feel this character was handled quite well and evoked a genuine reaction from me as a player. On the dark side of things, I had a lot of issues with the other characters while not in a cinematic. They don't look at Lara while they're speaking to her and only stare at a fixed position, which is extremely distracting and takes out of the experience. The voice clips during this time are also very generic and obvious when the voice clips run out, because the characters basically just say something along the lines of, "I have nothing left to say to you, leave me alone." I feel this could have been handled much better. Aside from the gripes above, I would say that the voice acting in the game was overall rather good, or at least as good as it could be for the two-dimensional characters presented. So aside from a few bits and pieces that took me out of the experience, I would say this is a really fun game to kill 10 to 20 hours with. The pace is fast and it's kept mostly constant throughout. The graphics are pretty and the voice acting is convincing with an adequately interesting story that doesn't quite get to the point of being ridiculous with its conveniences. So I hope you enjoyed watching my playthrough. I hope you enjoyed my review. Do feel free to comment if you have anything productive to say. Like and subscribe by all means. And I believe my next playthrough will be Psychonauts. Although I might hop in on some Fortnite just to have a look to see what all the fuss is about. But I'm going to stop talking there. Thank you very much for watching. Bye for now.